Hello YouTube. In this episode we will discuss enumerated types, or the enumerate enum keyword. So for this purpose we're going to create a example console application. Here we go. So what's worth noting about enums is that enums are kind of similar to Boolean types in that you can only have two values. So you can let's have so a Boolean variable is like either true or false, or sometimes cannot even be null, as you can see. So that's Boolean. To create an enum, you can either choose to create it inside of a class. As you can see, I could make it inside the class program, or I can make it outside of the class so it's in the namespace. So the reason one might do this is if they want to share it outside of the class, if they want to access the same enumeration from within the same namespace and not have to worry about sharing it through whatever means they would if it were just limited to the class. So for the sake of this example, I'm going to make it outside of the class but inside the same namespace. So I will start with public enum, and we will call this enum HeightDescriptor. Because this is a public member, we will use Pascal case here so that we may conform to C# coding conventions. So within the enumeration, within the enumerated type that we are defining, we can specify the exact options that we could have. So with HeightDescriptor, we'll just have tall, comma, average, comma, short. I could put more here if I wanted to. Note that every value is separated by a comma, except for the last one. The last one does not need a comma after it. In fact, probably cannot have a comma after it. We'll go without that. So we have tall, average, and short as height descriptors. This is only part of the battle. So in the same way that you would define a variable as a string, so for instance, one could say string a variable name. In the same way someone would do that, you could go and say HeightDescriptor a variable and then you can set the value. Now, because it's a height descriptor, we can only set it to one of the options granted to us by HeightDescriptor, the enum we created. So we can say HeightDescriptor dot, and we could select which one. So let's just assume then that we have, you know what, I'm going to rename this variable to height of mark. Now I don't know anyone named Mark, I'm just going with that. And then we'll have, I guess, a height descriptor for another person. Let's say height of Julia. And we'll have that equal to height descriptor, oh, I guess she's short. Here we go. If we want to compare these variables, we can make an if statement. We could say height of Julia is equal to height of Mark. If that is true, then we'll evaluate as true. Now, obviously, from the code that we've already written, it will not turn out as true because Mark is tall, Julia is short, so they're not the same height. Create another one. Height. If height of Julia is equal to HeightDescriptor dot short, and we can say, oops, she's short. As one more thing, you might have noticed that hovering over height, tall, and short, we see a number. With that thought in mind, maybe one could get away with comparing the values. So if height of Julia is less than height of Mark, do something. Now to end this, we will have a read key. So let's go over what we just made. We made two variables of type HeightDescriptor, and we've given them values. This one is given HeightDescriptor.tall. This one's given short. Cool. Now what happens if we were to remove where it says HeightDescriptor right here and just have equal to tall? It would not know what we were talking about. Tall what? Tall from what? It wouldn't know. So we have to have HeightDescriptor there. That is a requirement of, I believe, C#. It might not be a requirement in Java. I would have to look into that. So let's run the program. I fixed it. Okay, now we can run it. Height enum. So it results in the result, oops, she is short. So height of Julia, which is short, is given the value of 2 right here. As you can see, it has 2 right there, whereas tall has 0. So while it's true that she is short, height of Julia being less than height of Mark isn't actually true, because, as we can see, we have it in ascending order, or descending order causes the number to get larger. So the number assigned to height of Julia does not actually reflect her being taller than height of Mark, because she is actually shorter than Mark, as we indicated here. So be careful not to make this mistake. When looking at the numbers, short equals 2 and tall equals 0, be careful. Be careful about that, because that could trip you up. Oops, she is short. I hope you found this tutorial to be informative. Feel free to like this video, to comment down below of any suggestions you might have for a future video. That is all. Goodbye.